Welcome back to the channel, folks, where we dive into the wild, wonderful world of men transforming into women in all kinds of fascinating ways. If that's your vibe, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Now let's jump right into today's story. Chapter 15. As soon as Michael stepped out of the elevator and into the underground parking lot, he spotted Claire's car idling near the entrance. She was already out of the driver's seat, standing by the open back door, her expression tight with concern as she scanned for him. The moment she saw him, her eyes widened. "Oh, Michael," she murmured, quickly closing the distance between them. He tried to manage a smile, but even that small movement sent shooting pains through his facial bones. It felt like his skull was trying to reshape itself from the inside out. Pressure building behind his eyes, along his jawline, across his cheekbones. "That bad," he managed to rasp, his voice sounding strange even to his own ears. Higher, softer, as if his vocal cords were already beginning to change. "Your face," Claire said quietly, reaching up to touch his cheek. "It's changing right before my eyes." Michael didn't have the energy to respond. His body was radiating heat, his limbs feeling heavier by the second. Every joint ached, every bone seeming to hum with an internal vibration that was becoming increasingly painful. His clothes felt wrong against his skin, too rough, too restrictive, as if his very nerve endings were being rewritten. "It's happening faster than they said it would," he thought, a note of panic rising through the fog of pain and disorientation. "I'm changing too quickly." He barely registered Claire guiding him toward the car, her hands firm but gentle. "I brought some wet towels," she said, her voice calm but laced with urgency. "Get in the back seat and lie down. This is going to be rough." Define rough. Michael attempted to joke, though it came out as more of a pained groan. On a scale from mild discomfort to being reborn as a different person. "Oh wait, that's exactly what's happening." Claire didn't laugh, her expression too concerned as she helped him into the car. "Dr. Carter warned us the first transformation would be intense, but I didn't expect it to hit this hard or this fast. Your body is literally rebuilding itself." Michael nodded weakly and slid into the back of the car, collapsing onto the seat as Claire draped a cool, damp towel over his forehead and another across his neck. The relief was instant, but it wasn't enough to stop the burning sensation coursing through him. "It feels like I'm being microwaved from the inside," he mumbled, his words slurring slightly. "Like every cell is boiling." Claire slid into the driver's seat and started the car, glancing back at him in the rearview mirror. "Try to stay with me, Michael. Talk to me. Tell me what you're feeling." He could feel it deep in his bones. This was the first major stage of his transformation. The sensation was impossible to describe, like his skeleton was softening, becoming malleable, preparing to be remolded into a new form. He could actually feel his shoulders beginning to narrow, his hip bones starting to widen, the very structure of his body preparing for dramatic change. "My bones," he managed to say through gritted teeth. "They're moving, reshaping. It's like they're made of clay instead of calcium." He had known it was coming. He had been warned. But no amount of preparation could have prepared him for just how exhausting it would feel. Or how frightening, despite his attempts at bravado. This was beyond anything he had imagined. This complete surrender of control, this sense of his body being commandeered by forces beyond his understanding. "Claire," he whispered, a note of real fear in his voice. "Am I going to remember who I am when this is over?" His vision blurred as he stared up at the ceiling of the car, the world swaying slightly. Claire was talking. It took him a second to realize she was addressing him. "I need you to stay with me, okay?" Her voice was firm, but there was an undeniable softness to it. "I know it's overwhelming, But you're going to be okay. Just focus on breathing. Breathing's about all I can manage right now, he replied weakly. Everything else hurts too much. The pain will subside once you're fully unconscious, Claire assured him, though there was something in her tone that suggested she was trying to convince herself as much as him. Your body is trying to protect you from experiencing the most intense parts of the transformation. Small mercies, Michael muttered, feeling sweat drip down his temples despite the cool towel. Though I'd appreciate if the fully unconscious part would hurry up and get here. Michael blinked slowly, trying to focus on her words, but it was getting harder. His body felt like it was shutting down, alternating between feverish heat and bone-deep exhaustion. John's already at home, setting up the monitoring equipment, Claire said, her voice seeming to come from far away. Dr. Carter will be stopping by to check on you later tonight. Michael wanted to respond, to ask more questions, but speaking required too much effort. His jaw ached intensely, the bones realigning themselves with each passing minute. He could feel his face changing, features softening, restructuring to match Claire's genetic blueprint. The car started moving, and Michael felt himself slipping in and out of consciousness. One moment he was staring at the city lights passing by through the window, his mind hazy. This is it, he thought distantly. Goodbye, Michael. Hello, Emma. The next, darkness. A few seconds or maybe minutes later, he was vaguely aware of the car stopping. The sound of a door opening. Then Claire's hands were on him again, helping him sit up, guiding him out of the car. Come on, we're home, she said softly. Michael tried to move on his own, but his legs felt weak beneath him. His entire lower body felt wrong, altered, his hip joints wider, his center of gravity shifted. I can't walk right, he mumbled, the words coming out slurred. My hips are different. I've got you, Claire assured him, her arm firmly around his waist. Just lean on me. He barely made it a few steps before Claire looped an arm around his waist, supporting him as they made their way inside. John, Claire called as they entered. We're here. I need help with him. John appeared at the doorway, his expression shifting from concern to shock as he took in Michael's appearance. Jesus, he breathed. It's happening fast. Too fast, Claire agreed, her voice tight with worry. Help me get him upstairs. John quickly moved to Michael's other side, supporting him as they began to navigate toward the stairs. Hey, buddy, John said, his tone forcefully light. How are you holding up? Michael attempted a smile, but it felt strange on his increasingly unfamiliar face. Just peachy. Nothing says great day like having your entire skeletal structure rearranged. Still cracking jokes, John noted with approval. That's a good sign. What can I say? Michael mumbled. I'm hilarious even when I'm turning into someone else. The next few moments were a blur. The familiar scent of home. The soft creak of the stairs as they climbed up to his room. Now, and you. The feeling of Claire's hands carefully undoing the buttons of his shirt, helping him shrug it off. I can do it, Michael protested weakly, his fingers fumbling with the remaining buttons. Let me, Claire insisted gently. You can barely keep your eyes open. Normally, he might have felt awkward about it. But right now, all he could focus on was the overwhelming exhaustion. As Claire helped him out of his shirt, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror across the room. Even through his blurred vision, the changes were unmistakable. His shoulders were narrower, his waist beginning to curve inward, his chest subtly changed, the beginnings of feminine breasts already visible. I'm really changing, he whispered, shock penetrating even through his feverish haze. Yes, Claire confirmed softly. It's happening more rapidly than Dr. Carter predicted. Your body's accepting the transformation more readily than most subjects. Lucky me, Michael muttered. overachiever even at growing breasts. Claire guided him to the edge of the bed, helping him out of the rest of his clothes before pulling back the blankets. "Lay down," she murmured. Michael didn't resist. The second his head hit the pillow, his body surrendered. The room seemed to spin around him, the ceiling swirling in lazy circles above his head. He could feel every bone in his body humming with that strange vibration, preparing for their dramatic reshaping. His skin was clammy, his breathing slow and uneven. The room spun slightly, and he felt Claire pull the blankets over him, tucking him in carefully. "John's setting up the monitoring equipment," Claire explained, her voice seeming to come from far away. "We need to keep track of your vitals during the transformation. Dr. Carter will be here soon." Michael wanted to ask more questions. How long would this last? Would he feel different when he woke up? Would he even recognize himself? But speech was beyond him now. "You're going to be okay," she said softly, brushing damp hair from his forehead. Through the fog of encroaching unconsciousness, Michael noticed how tender the gesture felt, how gentle her touch was against his fevered skin. There was something maternal in it, protective in a way he hadn't experienced since childhood. "She's taking care of me," he thought dimly, "the way a mother would. Or perhaps the way a woman would care for a younger version of herself, which in the most literal sense possible was exactly what was happening." Michael wanted to respond, but the weight of sleep was too strong. He was dimly aware of John entering the room, of quiet voices discussing him, of hands attaching sensors to his chest, his forehead, his wrist. "His heart rate is elevated but stable," John was saying. "Temperatures at 102 and rising." "That's normal," came Claire's response. "Dr. Carter said to expect temperatures up to 104 during the most intense phases." Their voices faded in and out, becoming increasingly distant as unconsciousness beckoned. The last thing Michael was aware of was Claire's cool hand against his cheek, her voice whispering words he couldn't quite make out. Then even that was gone. Within seconds, he slipped into unconsciousness, the heat of his transformation consuming him. As awareness faded completely, one final thought crossed his mind. When he woke up, he would no longer be entirely Michael. The first major step in becoming Emma would be complete, his body permanently and irrevocably changed. And somehow, even as darkness claimed him entirely, he felt a strange peace with that knowledge. Michael stirred, his mind slowly surfacing from the depths of unconsciousness. His body felt light, lighter than it ever had before. There was no lingering exhaustion, no fever, just a deep, well-rested calm that spread through every inch of him. "Something's different," was his first coherent thought. The feeling wasn't just physical, it was as if his entire being had been recalibrated, adjusted to new specifications. He took a deep breath, exhaling softly as he shifted under the covers. Even that simple action felt foreign. The way his chest expanded, the way air filled his lungs, it all seemed more delicate, more refined. The first thing he noticed was his arm. It felt delicate. He lifted it in front of his face, blinking in surprise at how slender it was. His wrist was thin, his fingers long and graceful, the structure of his hand entirely different. The skin was flawless, smooth, and his nails had lengthened slightly, looking almost dainty. "Holy shit," he whispered, then froze at the sound of his own voice. It was higher, softer, not fully feminine yet, but noticeably different. The deep baritone he'd possessed all his adult life was gone, replaced by something lighter, more melodic. His eyes widened as realization set in. The first major change had happened. I slept through an entire physical remodeling, he thought, a mixture of awe and disbelief washing over him. My entire skeletal structure has been completely rebuilt. A mix of anticipation and nervous excitement flooded him, as he pushed back the blankets and swung his legs over the side of the bed. The moment his feet hit the ground, he wobbled. His tiny feet. "Whoa!" he exclaimed, grabbing the bedside table for support. His feet looked almost comically small compared to what he was used to. Dainty, feminine, with high arches and slender toes. He barely had time to register how small they were before he lost his balance, stumbling forward and catching himself on the edge of the bed. "What the hell?" "Note to self," he muttered, his new voice still startling to his ears. "Walking requires relearning when your entire skeletal structure gets overhauled." He took a shaky breath, steadying himself as he adjusted to the unfamiliar weight distribution of his body. His hips, they felt totally different, wider, shifting in a way that threw him off. His entire center of gravity had changed. "It's like my body's playing by completely different rules now," he thought, experimentally shifting his weight from one foot to the other. Same game, totally new equipment. Determined, he slowly pushed himself up and took careful steps toward the full-length mirror across the room. Each movement required conscious thought, where before he'd moved automatically. Now he had to carefully consider each step, each shift of weight. His hips swayed naturally in a way that felt alien yet somehow right, as if his new bone structure demanded this new way of moving. "This is what Claire meant about learning to walk," he murmured, recalling her earlier lessons with a new understanding. "It's not just socialization, it's physical necessity." And when he saw his reflection, he froze. Staring back at him was a girl. A very young Claire. "Oh my God," he breathed, raising a trembling hand to his face. His features were unmistakably hers, delicate cheekbones, soft lips, a thin swan-like neck. His hair, now a golden blonde, cascaded past his shoulders, smooth and healthy. His torso was tiny, compared to what it had been, his waist narrow and his limbs long and sleek. "I didn't just change," he whispered to his reflection. "I transformed completely." He turned slightly, examining his profile. His Adam's apple was gone, his neck smooth and feminine. His shoulders had narrowed dramatically, creating a frame that was undeniably female. His hips had flared, tilting slightly backward, giving him a softer, more feminine posture. His legs were impossibly long, his feet small, almost dainty. "I've lost at least 4 inches of height," he observed, noting how the top of his head would now barely reach the old Michael's chin, but gained about 6 inches of leg, proportionally. And yet, he was still lean, still almost androgynous. There were no curves yet, no breasts, no roundness to his rear. His body was still slim, still in transition. The best of both worlds. He quipped to his reflection, trying to mask his shock with humor. All the height loss with none of the curves to show for it. Talk about getting shortchanged. The only thing that clearly marked him as male was the small remnant of his manhood between his legs. But even that felt off. He couldn't quite pinpoint how, but it seemed somehow diminished, as if it too was in transition, preparing for the final phase of transformation that would complete his metamorphosis into a fully female form. "Hanging on by a thread," he muttered, with a nervous laugh. "Quite literally, the last man standing." He exhaled slowly, the sound soft and breathy, surprisingly feminine. "Even my breathing sounds different," he marveled, taking another experimental breath. How is that even possible? It was as if every aspect of his being had been recalibrated overnight, not just his bone structure, but the very way he existed in space. His movements, his breathing, the cadence of his voice, all transformed to match his new physical form. He took a step back, glancing at the bed where a neatly folded black silk robe lay draped over the chair. Claire must have left it for him. Considerate of her, he thought, glancing down at his naked form. Though I doubt any of my old clothes would fit this new body anyway. Sighing, He picked it up and slid it over his shoulders, the smooth fabric cool against his skin. He tied it around his waist, the oversized sleeves hanging slightly past his wrists. "Swimming in silk," he murmured, adjusting the robe. "Story of my new life." The robe, clearly designed for Claire's more voluptuous figure, hung loosely on his slender frame. Still, it felt luxurious against his newly sensitive skin, the silk gliding over his body in a way that was almost sensuous. Then he spotted a pair of fluffy slippers nearby. Also Claire's doing, no doubt. Without thinking, he slipped them onto his tiny feet, immediately feeling more secure with something covering them. "At least now I won't slip and break my newly remodeled neck," he said, wiggling his toes inside the plush comfort of the slippers. Taking one last glance at his reflection, he straightened his posture and turned toward the door. Claire and John need to see this, he thought, a strange mixture of nerves and excitement bubbling up inside him. They need to see what I've become. He needed to go see Claire and John. With a deep breath, he stepped out, his black silk robe flowing softly around him as he walked, the plush slippers muffling his footsteps. The hallway seemed different from this new height, this new perspective. The ceiling felt higher, the walls further apart. He moved cautiously, still adjusting to his new balance, his new proportions. "I wonder what John will say," he thought, a flutter of nervous anticipation in his stomach. Probably something inappropriate, knowing him. As for Claire, would she see herself in him now? Would she recognize the features she saw in the mirror every morning, now reflected in his transformed face? The thought was surreal, almost dizzying. He paused at the top of the stairs, suddenly realizing a new challenge. Stairs. 1. With new legs, new feet, new balance. "Great," he muttered. First major test of the new hardware. Gripping the banister firmly, he took the first step, then another, gradually gaining confidence as he descended. His movements were uncertain at first, but with each step, he began to adapt, his body intuitively learning how to navigate with its new proportions. "It's like my muscles remember what to do, even if my brain is still catching up," he thought, marveling at how his body seemed to adjust automatically, despite his conscious confusion. Everything had changed. His body, his voice, his very presence in the world, all transformed overnight. He was no longer Michael, not fully, though he wasn't entirely Emma yet either. He existed in some strange liminal space between identities, between genders. And this was only the beginning. The thought was both terrifying and strangely exhilarating. If this much could change in a single night, what would the next transformation bring? How much further would he go down this path of becoming someone else entirely? As he reached the bottom of the stairs, he paused, listening for voices that would lead him to Claire and John. The house felt different from this new perspective. Larger, more spacious, the ceilings higher, the doorways wider. Or maybe I'm just smaller, he thought wryly. Perception is a funny thing when you shrink several inches overnight. Taking another deep breath, he moved forward, preparing himself for whatever reactions awaited him. Whether they were shocked, amused, or clinical about his transformation, one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be quite the same again.